Hey guys, this is Mike from my private library. So, for those of you who follow the reading blog, myprivatelibrary.tumblr.com, um, I kind of made like a list, a photo post that showed everything I read for the year, books wise, um, and it was 51 books in total. So that's pretty much my biggest year ever. The year before, I think I managed 30. So, what I kind of felt like doing, and maybe what I'll do for the future, if I keep this blog up, which I'm planning on, I kind of want to do like a best of, or at least my personal best, my favorites and recommendations, because I think I read this entire year, I may have read one thing that actually came out in 2014, and while it's not that I didn't love it, I kind of just want to do like my highlights of the year. So I'm gonna do out of those 51 books, I'm going to pick one book, and I'm also going to do one comic to kind of balance it out. So, you want to listen to the book, you just have to listen for the book part, and if you're looking for the comic, I guess you can skip ahead a little bit in the video. So, the book I chose as my personal best, my personal favorite for 2014 is actually the book that I wound up finishing first. Um, but finishing is kind of putting it lightly. This book I actually started in, I believe it was October of 2013, and that was when it was my second to last semester of school. I was doing my thesis class, I was doing a lot of writing classes, I was very busy, on top of the fact that it is a rather large and time consuming book, so I really didn't end up finishing it. It took me from mid October to, I think it was the second week in January. So, yeah, my favorite book of 2014 was Anna Karenina, or Anna Karenina, depending on your pronunciation, by Tolstoy. But yeah, it's the copy I have is just about 800 pages, I think, barely 800 pages. So it's not the biggest book I've read. Actually, it might be. Harry Potter books are kind of long, but it's up there, and it's been hailed as a classic for basically since it's been released in the late 1800s, and it's one of those books that people who love to read love to talk about and love to praise. And now that I've actually read it, I guess I'm one of those people because people are people may be intimidated by its size, by oh, it's an old book, it's got to be written in old weird language and blah blah blah. And I guess in a way it is, but at the same time, once you're done with it, you really do feel so accomplished. You get this great feeling of accomplishment, like wow, hell yeah, I did this. This could be considered Everest to some people, and I guess it should. It really is that good of a book. So, basic plot summary for those of you who may not know, and maybe it'll interest you, is it's about a love affair. Um, the book, I think, basically revolves around seven key characters. You have Anna Karenina, her husband Alexei. Then you have the Count Vronsky, Alexei. Um, Levin, Konstantin Levin. Um, Stephen Oblonsky, Stepan. And then there's Katrina, or Kitty, and Dolly Sherbatsky. They're sisters. And basically, the whole thing, you sort of switch point of views from all these characters and maybe a couple side characters. And the book's divided into 8 parts, so usually one part sticks around one central character while maybe switching to other point of views for a little bit. So the story starts from, I think it's Oblonsky's point of view, and you sort of get a feel for the other characters a little bit. The whole big thing, I guess, is Anna Karenina meets the Count Vronsky and falls in love, which happens, I guess, except she's married, she has a kid, her husband's like a sort of like a high-ranking person in the government, and it would be a huge, huge scandal, which in, mid to late 19th century Russia, political scandals were not a good thing. Back in those days, I'm guessing you could be killed or be forced to fight a duel or something like that, which actually doesn't happen in the book. But yeah, so then it turns into about her affair with Vronsky, her wanting to run away with him, them trying to decide, okay, what the hell are we going to do now? And then in the background, you have Konstantin Levin, who's sort of pining after Kitty Sherbatsky, and, you know, she's kind of rebuffing his advances, even though she likes him. And you have Oblonsky is being unfaithful to Dolly, and there's just like a whole mess of things going on. But the central big thing is, again, Karenina and Vronsky. And just the way it all ends up is, well, I guess you can't say it's good, but it's emotional. It's a little overwhelming, but it is so great. So, I mean, for people who haven't read, this is considered a classic, I guess, rightfully so. So for those of you who haven't read, you know, it's good to take getting used to, but it's so worth the patience and the time. You know, this is one of those books, if you devote yourself to maybe a chapter or two a day, and, you know, you just kind of let it sit on the shelf and very slowly get through it, you'll feel good about it. And, you know, if you find yourself interested, you'll find yourself willingly reading more and more each time. But like I said, it's not easy, but at the same time, it's not as difficult as you would think. It's not as difficult as people make it sound. There are a couple little things. You know, there's a lot of names to remember, and depending on the translation you get, which is also important, I figured out. The copy I have here is translated by Richard Pever and Larissa Volokonsky, and, you know, depending on who translated your version, the names might be a little tweaked, and the language is going to be different. That's the thing. You get some people who translate it and make it all flowery, or you get some people who translate it and just make it, I guess, kind of dense and plain. But I kind of looked up online. They said these two, Pever and Volokonsky, are good translators, and they're actually the ones who translated my copy of War and Peace. So, you know, that's something I'm working on very slowly, as you can tell. But also, I brought up War and Peace because Anna Karenina actually has, because it took place in the mid to late 1800s, there's a lot of references to historical events and people and stuff like that, I mean, I guess they're kind of obscure by today's standards. It's not like, oh, you know, the big thing in here was, you know, the War of 1812 or whatever, like War and Peace. This is a lot of obscure stuff going on in countries, so it does have, I guess they're called footnotes. You know, they refer to the back of the book, you know. So what I actually wound up doing is, for books like this, and now what I'm doing with War and Peace is I'm using 2 bookmarks. I actually could have used 3, because towards the front of the book they have they usually have a nice list of the principal characters and their family trees and how they're related. So that's one spot. Sometimes if you're reading, keep flipping back to the front. You're like, oh, okay, who's this person? How are they related? Then you skip back to your part. And then in the middle of your reading, you know, I find it's so much easier. You know, you stumble on a footnote. Fix this. You stumble on a footnote, and instead of having to constantly, you know, stop in your place and rush to the back of the book, you just have that second bookmark in place in the back, and you'll automatically go to the right footnote. So yeah, that's just my method, and I found that it works. It also gets stares from people, because I didn't see anybody else doing it, but apparently me using 2 bookmarks is weird. But yeah, and then just, again, it's noticing your copy. Like I said, my version of Anna Karenina is just about 800 pages, but it looks as big as War and Peace, which is, this version is 1,200 pages. Like I said, the size is often the most daunting thing. It's the thing that usually will sway a person one way or another from reading a book. But I think if you have patience and you're really willing to work with it, you know, push yourself a little, you'll find that it's not that hard of a read. You'll find that you start liking the characters more than you thought. You know, Tolstoy really is a brilliant writer. He really does good character-driven stuff, and you just start to feel so much for all these characters. Um, yeah, I honestly can't sing enough praise for this, and I just feel so good about myself that now that I've actually read it, and who knows, maybe one day when my reading list is a lot shorter, I honestly would read through it again, because who knows what I missed, especially during the early days of October, November when I was just trying to rush through it in between classes and stuff. Not like towards, the end when I actually took the time to actually study what was going on and whatnot. So yeah, best book that I read out of 2014 was easily Anna Karenina, and I can't recommend it enough. Don't be afraid. It's really not that big. I mean, it is, but it's just so worth it. Hi. Okay, so now, I don't usually update on my blog when I finish reading comics, usually because, well, I honestly read through them so often and so fast and so quickly that list would just be gigantic. And a lot of them are, superhero stuff, which people really don't care about. I mean, they care about, but I like updating more with the indie stuff, the creator-owned stuff that's not necessarily superheroes. One, because it looks a little better, but and two, because it's stuff that when I suggest to people comics, they're not gonna, I guess, take me as seriously if I'm saying, oh yeah, go out and read this copy of Superman, or go read Grant Morrison's Animal Man. I mean, people are coming to me for recommendations, and I say Animal Man, and they're gonna look at me weird for a couple reasons. So I usually update it when I get a nice new book. I update with all the omnibuy I grab because they're nice deluxe editions. I update it when I get a nice individual story from a writer that I liked, like who was it? Jeff Lemire's Underwater Welder, and I updated with all of Jonathan Hickman's image stuff that I grabbed, Pax Romana, Nightly News, stuff like that. So, sticking with that, the best comic I read in 2014 is a new book called Nailbiter by Joshua Williamson, with art by, I think it's Mike Henderson. So yeah, I was really late to the game. I think I got this in the middle of December, right before the year ended. I was on Tumblr one day and I saw a post, I think when issue 7 came out, and they talked about it. And, I hadn't heard anything about it before. Usually with image stuff, I don't really pick up single issues anymore, so everything I grab is sort of word of mouth. I ask my friends, what's good, what's not. And Nailbiter never came up. So, it was a random grab. I went to my comic shop. I noticed that they had the first trade out. It was $10 for a 6-issue trade. Really, that's a good price. And I went home with it, and I immediately fell in love with it. It's just so much fun. It's so good. So yeah, basic plot synopsis is this town of, it's a weird name, or it's a silly name, Buckaroo, Oregon, happens to be home to 16 known serial killers. 16 serial killers were born and raised and killed in this town. The most notable being Edward Warren, known as the Nailbiter, who he saw people biting their nails, and basically he would kill them and chew their fingers off. Yummy. So now this there's a FBI profiler whose friend is investigating this town, trying to figure out, okay, 16 serial killers, that's not a coincidence. That can't be a coincidence. So this FBI guy is investigating, maybe there's links between these serial killers, and he goes missing. So now his friend comes into the town to try and find him, and just finds everything going crazy. There's a store devoted to all these murderers, selling merchandise, profiting. There's people running around in masks, and things are just generally going to shit. But it's so much fun. The art is nice. Um, it's creepy. The entire thing sort of reminds me of American Vampire. I can't really put my finger on why, but nice and bloody. You got elements of horror going on. It's a mystery, and it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, this is definitely something I would recommend going out and buying if you can find a copy. Should be available almost anywhere, and like I said, it's $10, which is pretty cheap for a trade nowadays. But me personally, I'm hoping to see that they release it in some kind of hardcover, because I mean, like I said, it's a great story, and some of the artwork is just, I don't want to get to a page that's too spoilery, but it's just really good. Okay, fire. Let's see. Yeah, show people faces. You know, that's the FBI profiler guy, and she's the sheriff. Is a Nailbiter here? No, but yeah, a really cool story. Creepy and thrilling, mysterious, uh, nice and violent for those of you who like that. I don't know. It's weird and quirky, and I love it. So I would definitely recommend everybody going out and grabbing a copy, find it. So yeah, those two are my best 2014. A good year. So I guess at the end of the year, we'll see what 2015 has in store. I'm already one book down. I just started on the Goldfinch, and I'm liking it. And I have a gigantic pile of comics to go through. And I'm expecting another shipment in about a week. So once those are all here, I'll do like an unboxing video or a new haul video, and I should be caught up for a while. So like, subscribe, check out the blog, myprivatelibrary.tumblr.com. See you guys around.